What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches. I am your host, guys, as always, Coach Steve. We are back for another fantastic episode. We are talking drafts, we are talking players, we're talking ADP. We're going to be talking a lot of shit tonight, guys. This is basically our last show of the off season here. So we're going to get you guys all squared away. If you guys have drafts this weekend, like I have 7, this is a lot of prep here. We're going to give you guys as much information as possible to help you guys out with these drafts. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat here, and we will absolutely answer them for you today. Of course, we have Coach Tyler on the show today. Coach Tyler, what is going on, brother?
What's going on, guys? Yeah, in a week we'll be setting up for our first Thursday night game of the season. We're gonna watch the Birds absolutely dominate the Micah Parsons-less Cowboys now. So excited for that. Excited to jump into it, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're one short week away. It is a lot of fun. So tonight, guys, we have a lot of things. We're going to be talking ADP values, players to attack, players to avoid, some deep sleepers to go after, maybe some draft strategies. But before we get to all that fun stuff, obviously, there's a lot of news that kind of happened between this week and last week here. That's what happens when you don't go on for 10 days or so. You have a lot of news now, especially with the season rolling around. To start us off here. So we're going to get right into it here. We're going to start off of something that happened last week with Brian Robinson Jr., who is now a San Francisco 49er. If you didn't see that news, I think that shortly happened a couple days after our last podcast there. But Coach Tyler, I'm going to turn it to you. I'm going to allow you to choose between reacting to the 49er side or the Commander side. So which would you prefer?
I guess I'll react to the Commander side.
All right.
I'll throw a little 49ers in there because I feel like the 49ers side is pretty cut and dry. But yeah, on the Washington side, I think it opens it up a ton. I was listening to, it may have been the Fantasy Footballers, I can't remember, but someone was talking about the trade happening and all the hype around Bill Krosky Merritt and everything. And obviously the hype has gone insane. I have a ton of shares of him too, so I have bought in on that. But a lot of people want to place this as an Austin Eckler is going to show some resurgence in his career. And whoever it was made the point that Austin Eckler was on this team with Brian Robinson Jr. last year. Chris Rodriguez was on this team with Brian Robinson Jr. last year. If Brian Robinson Jr. was going to be traded, if the Commanders felt good enough to get rid of him for, I think it was a 5th-round pick or something, so they're not even getting, they're getting a late day 2, early day 3, then there's got to be some factor that was added to the mix. And it was Bill Krosky Merritt. I'm not going to say he's going to come out week 1 and lead the team in touches, but I do think there is 100% a world where Chris Rodriguez and Krosky Merritt are playing off of each other a lot. I don't think that Austin Eckler disappears, but we know what he is. He's going to play the pass catcher role, and we'll see how much he sustains through age and health and variability. But I think it's a grab bag. I know I talk about my main dynasty team. I've got Bill Krosky Merritt sitting on my taxi, and I've got Chris Rodriguez sitting on my bench.
Let's talk about for the draft. Let's talk about for the draft. Where do you see these guys now that are they worth taking, and where are you taking them from?
I definitely think they're worth taking. The problem, like I said, if you haven't been tuned into fantasy Twitter and any fantasy sources over the last 2 weeks, Krosky Merritt's ADP has shot up.
Yes.
And it's insane. I want to say I've seen him go in the 6th round of drafts, which it's a little rich for my blood. But I really think that Chris Rodriguez has the opportunity to be a sleeper coming out of your drafts, especially with all the hype behind Krosky Merritt. If you go look at the last preseason game, obviously Bill had one of the most wide open touchdown runs you've ever seen. But Chris Rodriguez was out there, and he looked just about as good. And obviously there's all the hype around Krosky Merritt, and you want him on your team. But I wouldn't shy away in your later rounds from taking a look at Chris Rodriguez. Maybe even in your home leagues, you're most likely getting him with your last pick in your draft. So I would say go after Chris Rodriguez. If you can get Bill Krosky Merritt at a tolerable price for you, if you can get him, I don't want to have him as one of my, immediate starting lineups, but once I'm filling out my bench, if I see Krosky Merritt out there, if I see him available, I'd be willing to take the gamble on.
That's fair. I like that. I think Merritt is definitely someone in the right range that is worth the target. Because, like you said, there's a reason why they traded Brian Robinson away. I mean, outside of him being kind of ineffective at times, but definitely, I think right now Merritt is around a ADP 100. So he's like going in. He's like the 36th running back off the board currently right now. That's probably going to go up as we get through this weekend here, where he's probably around 8 pick, maybe higher. So the hype is going to continue to rise as people draft and as ADP fluctuates over the rest of the weekend here. On the flip side of things here, the 49ers side, uh, obviously definitely gives Brian Robinson a little bit more life, maybe some upside life, but as a backup, unfortunately now you don't have that flex value with Brian Robinson anymore. You're looking at a guy that is probably a primary handcuff because we all know the 49ers offense is very running back friendly, no matter who is the running back. So if maybe Brian Robinson Jr. could get a couple games this year and actually provide fantasy value, if anything, he's going to be maybe a guy that steals half of the goal line work and short yardage away from Christian McCaffrey just to try to keep McCaffrey healthy for the season. I personally don't think this changes McCaffrey's value in drafts. I still think he's going to see plenty of work in this offense. Obviously, Brian Robinson becomes more of a bench piece now, and I think if you have Christian McCaffrey, he should be a priority in round 9 or 10 at this point. I think that's what you got to do. Isaiah Grando's long gone for the meantime, unless something happens to Brian Robinson. But yeah, that's kind of where that side of things lands with that trade. But there was a lot of trades. There was a lot of trades this past. Well, there's 2 trades that we're going to talk about here. The next one was it seems to be a reunion with all these older wide receivers, but Adam Thielen traded back to not traded back because he wasn't traded there, but traded to the Minnesota Vikings, a place where he spent most of his career out there. And Coach Tyler, I'll give you another shot here. Do you want the Panther side of things or the Viking side of things for draft prep?
I feel like I've been beating the T-Mac drum so long this offseason that I got to take the Panther side of it.
That's fine. Go for it.
But, yeah, Thielen gets traded. He was the most productive wide receiver out of this room for the last couple of years, which is absolutely insane to say that, 30-something-year-old Adam Thielen was.
Like 35 now.
Yeah. But obviously it's a big boost, mostly to Jalen Coker. The GM came straight out. I can't remember his name. I'm thinking of the Jags GM. But the GM came out, Canales came out right after the Thielen trade and basically said that Jalen Coker is going to fulfill that slot role for Adam Thielen. And I know he's got Jalen Coker has a very deep cult following. So, cokeheads stand up. They're doing great. But I think it mostly affects Coker. I think it does open up a lot more in terms of the projected volume for Teteroa McMillan, right? We expected him to come in, be the alpha, be the one, take over this team. But now even more so, he's going to be playing alongside Xavier Legette, who, you hope you see a year 2 jump from, but outside of little spurts, didn't have a ton in his rookie year. And then Jalen Coker, who I want to say was a day 3 pick last year as well, who, he's going to be taking over that slot role. And he obviously has a cult following because he can do some really good things on a football field. But there's just a lot up in the air. And so as much as we, as T-Mac fans, loved the situation for, walking into a alpha role and the projected targets and all of this stuff, I think it opens up even more now that the, lead target getter for the Panthers is gone, even if it was 35-year-old Adam Thielen.
Sorry, I had to turn my AC unit off. I wasn't sure if there was an echo in the back, so I had to make sure that at least for the whole episode, or more than half, that we don't have that issue there. But no, I love that breakdown for the Panther side of things there. On the Viking side, though, things get a little more complicated, I feel like. Early on, I think we'll be okay. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's, I know he's dealing with a little bit of an injury, but he should be fine for the season. It shouldn't really affect him overly too much there. He's going to get his targets. Thielen, for at least the first 3 weeks, may be a usable flex option in that offense. It really will depend on how quickly J.J. McCarthy comes out swinging. I guess, I don't think it really overly knocks T.J. Hawkinson at all, but it definitely stops the upside I thought T.J. Hawkinson was going to get with, Jordan Addison out for the first 3 games of the season. And then things are going to get real complicated after that. I know Jordan Addison is a rising young wide receiver here who performed really well last year. But they traded for Adam Thielen for a reason. He's a really productive player despite his age currently right now in the league. And I think compared to what they were going to have in Jalen Naylor and Taj Felton, I think you have a guy like Adam Thielen who is a very productive wide receiver despite the age. He's probably not going to be a guy you saw a couple years ago, but I think he could eat into Jordan Addison's work. I know Jordan Addison's already expended 3 games. Right now for me, Addison is probably closer to a round 10 pick personally than where I think he's going like round 8 still. I think he's was a round 6 pick, but now he's kind of dripped down a little bit. If I can find the ADP on that real quick while I am talking. He's wide receiver 41, pick 89 overall. So you're looking at round 9, 10 already. I guess around 9. I'd probably wait until round 10 just because the suspension essentially losing for him for 4 games for the season. And I don't know what kind of impact Adam Thielen is going to have. We don't know what J.J. McCarthy is going to do. We expect him to obviously do well, but I think that offense outside of Justin Jefferson could get really fluctuated by week and by matchup, unfortunately. So, yeah, Adam Thielen going there definitely creates a little bit of a logjam. Moving over to, like I said, another wide receiver that returned home. Amari Cooper lands back with the Las Vegas Raiders, despite the Jacoby Meyer trades that have been going out there. Does this have any impact? Are you drafting Cooper late?
I
don't think I am.
Yeah, if I've got like an insanely deep team,
maybe deep league.
If I'm in a family like home league where my team is miles better than everyone, and I just want to do it for the sake of saying I had Amari Cooper on my team in 2025, I'm go for it then. But if you're in a serious draft, if you've got money on the line, there's not too many doors I see opening. He's coming from an offense with a top 3 quarterback in the league, and he didn't do anything. So if you're going from that, no disrespect to Geno, he's not Josh Allen. So
that's true. Yeah, I don't plan on drafting him again. It's Bowers, then Myers, then maybe Cooper. He says he's got some left in the tank, but we'll see. There's a reason he was a free agent up until end of August. So. All right, a couple injury things. Tell me if I'm missing someone, but I feel like those were the 2 big ones with Joe Mixon and Tajay Spears. I believe both going on the pump list, if I'm not mistaken, for the first 4 games. So they're obviously going to miss the first 4 games. Are you drafting either one of these 2? Even say less double-digit rounds?
I'm more lenient towards Spears. We talked about it last week with Mixon. No. It's the same thing. It's been another, what'd you say, 10 days?
Yeah.
Still haven't heard anything outside of he's not going to be ready for week 1, and he's probably going to go on the pup to miss the first 4 games. Okay. That's all we know. With Spears, it's a high ankle sprain, so sometimes those things can linger, but at the same time, if he has 5 weeks to rest it and then maybe another week to come back and start to work his way back into a role, that gives Cam Ward a little bit of cushion time to get his feet wet. Maybe the offense looks a little bit better coming on the back half of the year. But I'm for sure still staying away from Mixon because we don't have any new news that isn't he's on the pup.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've never been a fan of drafting players who, especially injury-wise, are out for so many weeks as it is. I feel like it's like unless you have an IR spot, which is fine, obviously. If you have an IR spot, you can put them on there. But if you don't have an IR spot, I don't really want to draft a Mixon in general. I don't think he's going to be ready for most of the season. I think Spears has a better shot, like you said. It definitely gives me more confidence in Tony Pollard. I feel like if Tony Pollard can win out the first 4 weeks and do well, there's a chance for him to just steal that job for the whole season there. I mean, I think Tony Pollard for me right now, I like him as like a round, like 8 round pick. I think he's a good wide RB2 to have on your team if you go RB early and then kind of wait a little bit and then kind of target a guy like Tony Pollard at that point. Which of the Houston running backs at their ADP are you going after, if at all?
Yeah. I feel like I want to say Dameon Pierce. I know we saw a little bit from Nick Chubb, but it may just be the Texans dynasty player in me. But I had Dameon Pierce during his rookie season. Should have been 1,000-yard rusher. Ended up getting hurt. You can hear all that. But I think that he has the best chance to kind of take over the offense if Mixon is out. I know he was super inefficient last year because the offensive line sucked. The offensive line still sucks, so it's not like I have insanely high hopes for him.
It's true.
But if I'm picking one out of this backfield, and it's between, 29-year-old Nick Chubb, who's coming off another major injury,
Yeah, Woody
or
Marks.
Woody Marks, who, he's a rookie, so he still needs to get up to speed. I know he was playing in the SEC and playing, I guess, in the Big Ten with USC, but at the same time, they move a little bit. I know there's some similar guys. They move a little bit different in the NFL. And so I see Pierce as the guy that can go out and kind of reprise a role that he has had with this team. The difficult thing is it's a terrible offensive line. So no matter who gets thrown back there, it's a lot of, hey, here's the ball, go figure it out yourself. And I don't think that the Texans necessarily have any guys that are built to succeed that way.
That's fair. I mean, you could get Dameon Pierce with literally your last pick and see what happens over the first 2 weeks and then cut him.
So draft Spears, put him on your IR, and pick up Dameon Pierce. That's what we're saying.
There you go. There you go. I guess it's not a bad idea either. I don't mind Woody Marks either, strictly because I feel like Stroud's going to have to dump the ball off a lot, getting the ball out of his hand. And Marks was a very good pass catching back in college, despite, obviously having to make it at the next level here. Again, these are all guys. Those both guys. I'm staying away from Nick Chubb. I just don't. I feel like it's just like it's going to be like 800 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like it's not going to be anything impressive. So yeah. All right. And then one last thing. We had a big suspension, which I messed up and I wrote the wrong number here. Hold on. There we go. Fix that. Rishi Rice. This came out yesterday, guys. So if you were living under a rock yesterday, Rishi Rice has accepted a 6-game suspension by the NFL after originally going to be playing the first 4 games, then deciding what his punishment was going to be at a hearing. But he says takes the first 6 games of the season. Now, the Chiefs also have a Week 10 bye. So you're assuming at this point, you're already going to have him not for 1 game, obviously, because of a bye week. But now you're missing him for 7 games this season. Again, it's not injury related. But where do you draft Rice now? Where's the earliest you plan on taking him? Because I've had a lot of people ask me this. Where are you taking Rice? How early are you taking him? I listen to some podcasts. People are like, I'm not changing my opinion on him. I'm taking him still at the round 5 pick, 6 pick. But I'm like, you don't have a player for 7 weeks. It's not like an IR spot. You're wasting a spot on your team. But where are you taking him, Coach Tyler?
Yeah. I'm pulling up his ADP. He's going at wide receiver 30, which I don't hate, but he's going at the 67th overall player in consensus according
to
Fantasy
6 pick.
Pro.
Around 6 picks still. I think that's too early, personally.
That's too early for a guy that's missing half of your fantasy season, right? If you're playing in your family home league and you're playing with your mom and your dog has a team and no one knows anything about football, go ahead and draft him. You're probably not going to get hurt. But I understand the connection with Patrick Mahomes. I understand the fact that he could come out off of basically a 6-week break and come out in week 7 and be ready to roll and go be the wide receiver 1. But at the same time, he's out for 6 weeks. Obviously, there's not an injury involved. But if any injured player is out for 6 weeks, even if they, stub their toe and they're out for 6 weeks, you're a little timid about them coming back. I know Rice is going to be able to he's going to be able to, stay in shape. He's going to be able to go lift. He's going to be able to do all the things. He's not going to be running with this offense. He's not going to be, going through practice. He's not going to be increasing that chemistry. We got to see it in the preseason, but he's out for 7 weeks of your, promised 14-week fantasy season. It's hard for me to knowingly bet on a guy that's going to miss half the season, right?
I would rather trade for him after week 2 when
Yeah.
someone's panicking and needs a player. And I'm like, all right, I'm 2-0. Fuck it. Let me get Rice. I'll give you blah blah.
Yeah, and the longer you play that game, right? We obviously going into the season, for the most part, everyone at the top is healthy. We're gonna knock on wood for that one. But going into week 1, everyone feels great about their team, and if someone drafts Rice and they have a great team, then they're gonna be like, "Oh, I don't need Rice. I'll be fine." One twisted ankle later, in week 3, week 4, their team plummets. They go on a couple game losing streak, and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't wait on Rice to come back, or I'm going to miss the playoffs because everyone else is sitting at 500 and I'm sitting at 2-4. So, like Coach Steve said, I really would be down for, instead of spending a 6th round pick on him, go trade, maybe a flex guy and a bench guy a few weeks into the season.
We have a question in the chat from Albert. What round are you guys taking Worthy now? Now that Worthy, obviously, is going to likely be the wide receiver one, at least on the team. Maybe not the number 1 pass catcher, but obviously we saw Worthy at the end of last season just really do well. He's right now at 56, so he's a round 5 pick. That's kind of where his ADP is going. Maybe early round 6. Rice is a late round 6 currently right now, but where are you taking Worthy? Is he worth taking higher now?
I would honestly want to see it first. Obviously, we're tied into the connected to Patrick Mahomes. And I think Worthy's a great player. But at the same time, we just always see this stretch of, at the end of the season, someone's going to emerge for the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes has to get to the Super Bowl. Someone's got to catch the ball, right? He can't throw it to himself. In a couple years ago, that was Rashee Rice. This past year, it was Xavier Worthy. I don't know if I can fully buy into Worthy because while Rice is out, it still took Worthy most of the season to become that guy, right? And that's with a terrible Travis Kelce season. That's with Hollywood Brown hurt. That's with Rashee Rice out. He had the
about week 11 is when he started really seeing some production that was steady.
Yeah. And obviously, I'm not saying he should have taken, or he was able to take the, chance when he had it immediately. But I think he had all the dominoes fall his way. And I mean, he was consistent. Don't think he was a game breaker or anything. I don't think Xavier Worthy's going to win you your league. I don't think he won you your league last year, and he started to really break out during fantasy playoffs and during the actual NFL playoffs.
I mean, again, if you look at the first 5-6 weeks without obviously Rashee Rice, you're looking at the Chargers, Eagles, the Giants, the Ravens, the Jags, and the Lions. How many of those games are going to be high scoring? Maybe 3. Maybe Worthy gets a big one deep downfield on him. I mean, I'm still okay in that round 6 range. At the moment, I probably would take him over Rice, for obvious reason, but I also wouldn't take Rice probably until round 8. But Worthy in round 6, I think it's decent value. He should at least see 5 to 6 targets each week because I still think that the target share will go to Travis Kelce. And I think Travis Kelce is a good value now in drafts if you don't want to take the top 3 or 4 guys and then take Kelce in round 5 or 6 yourself. I'm okay with that now because Kelsey's that underneath guy now. I don't think he's going to be that field stretching tight end anymore. He's going to be that underneath guy that, Rashee Rice was going to be this season here. So I think he's a good value. I think Worthy's a fine round 6 pick. I'm not going to be like, ooh, I got Xavier Worthy in the round 6. I'm really excited. I'm still nervous because I don't know what a full season would look like for him because we don't know what's going to happen when Rice comes back. We say, oh, Rice might not be good. Come on his way back, it might take him a couple weeks to get things going. But what if it doesn't? What if he becomes the target and then Worthy kind of fades in the distance and now you drafted the top 6 round guy and now he's not as productive. So he's kind of like a boom or bust guy. You take him at round 6 and hope for the best and hope that during that stretch of games that there's no Rice, that Worthy is able to produce at a high level, which he's shown us, but it's not consistent yet. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But round 6 is probably Albert. It's probably where I would take him. So, all right. And again, some like later guys. I mean, Juju could have some value in the slot now. Hollywood Brown maybe, but again, those are deeper round guys that you're going after. Maybe last pick kind of players at that point. So. All right, well, that is enough of the news for today. I think that's basically everything news-wise that I had mentioned in our episode. So let's talk about some values now. Let's do values first, and then we'll do avoids. So, Coach Ty, we'll start with quarterbacks. Name off a couple quick quarterbacks that you like at value that are you're taking or people should consider taking.
Yeah, I mean the first one we talked about him a little bit earlier, JJ McCarthy. Even with a couple weeks without Jordan Addison, he's got all the tools to succeed, and he's in a Kevin O'Connell offense. So if he doesn't succeed, I think that speaks more to him than anything. But JJ McCarthy, I'm seeing him as around quarterback 19 in drafts. So you're getting him late, right? You're not having to spend up for one of these elite quarterbacks, but at the same time, we saw Sam Darnold finish as a QB1 last year. So if I'm drafting QB19, I can have QB1. I'm going to take it, right? A big winner of today. It's not going to seem like it in real football terms, but Dak Prescott in the passing game for the Cowboys is going to have to win games because they don't have any pass rush anymore. Their secondary sucks. The Cowboys defense went from one of the best statistical and especially fantasy defenses in the league to buns for the sake of a defensive tackle and a couple first-round picks. But Dak Prescott's going, consensus around quarterback 10. Again, we like to play with the numbers. Every year that he has come off a injury year, Dak Prescott has been a quarterback 1, and I think he's been at least a quarterback 8 or higher every injury year every year following an injury. So we've got JJ McCarthy, we've got Dak Prescott, and really, I think that Jordan Love has so much opportunity this year, right? He is one of the most slept-on quarterbacks. A couple years ago, he finished second in the league in passing touchdowns. So it's not like he, can't go out and produce. And again, we talked about it last week. The Packers did the one thing they never do and spent a first-round pick on a wide receiver. He retains Josh Jacobs. Everyone's buzzing about Emmanuel Wilson getting some run this year. You still have Jaden Reed. You still have all these deep threat, big play receivers and Dobbs and Watson for the 4 games that he'll play. But he's still got all the weapons. People are projecting a Tucker Kraft breakout, and then you add Matthew Golden into that mix. That's a lot for a guy that's pretty slept on. And, consensus around quarterback 17, again, we're seeing a guy that has done it before, and he was playing through injury last year. So who's to say he can't go out and do it again with a very similar supporting cast in very much continuity in the coaching department?
That's fair. No, I like those 3 options there. They're definitely good options, not better options. They're good options to take, obviously, at their values currently right now. A couple guys I like still. I still like Bo Nix again in that round 7 to 8 range. If you don't like taking quarterbacks late, you want that mid, you want to fill up your starting lineup first. I think Bo Nix got solid upgrades to his team there with a really good offensive line and a hopefully more productive run game to kind of balance out what we didn't have in Denver last year. And again, and this has nothing to do with Bo Nix in his 3rd preseason game, but Bo Nix came in the NFL pro ready. He was ready to go. He knew what he had to do. Yeah, things got a little inconsistent early on, but he really got his groove going in the second half of the season here. He has a good wide receiver. He's got a solid tight end. He's got a good run game. He's got a couple good young wide receivers I think are ready to step up for him going into year 2. So again, if you like that mid-round, I think he's a solid mid-round quarterback to go out there and grab. Another guy I just want to quickly mention is Drake May. Drake May's another quarterback, especially early on in the season. He has solid matchups early on. He has the Raiders week 1, Dolphins week 2. So there's a lot of good matchups to go out for Drake May early on in the season here. And again, they gave him weapons. It may not be the best weapons in the world, but they gave him better weapons than he had last year. You're looking at what he was able to work with last year and was able to produce. He's got that rushing mobility, a guy that I like because if you're going to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, you got to have a rushing floor. Or you have to be really efficient with your passing and touchdowns and passing yards, which I don't know if Drake May will be like that right now, but you know what he's going to have? He's going to be able to probably get you 300 to 400 yards on the ground, and that could be just enough to kind of get him on that top tier. So he's another guy in the later rounds. If you don't want to take quarterback early, he's another guy I really like a lot there. Again, you could say Caleb Williams if you believe Caleb Williams is really going to take that step with that amazing offense, and I probably plan on drafting a couple of Caleb Williams on my end. So, all right, over to values at running back. What are some values at running back that people should take or you're taking in drafts? That's someone that you really like, you consistently want to see yourself taking.
Yeah, the first is a guy that we kind of hinted at going through the news, but Tony Pollard. He's someone that I've been a big fan of for a while. As much of a Cowboys hater as I am, still a Tony Pollard fan. And we look at Spears being out those first 4 weeks, and we look at what Pollard does as the lone back even in that Tennessee backfield, right? It's not even when he was in Dallas behind a great O line. When he's playing in Tennessee without Tajay Spears, he's an RB1. And so I'm at least getting him in the draft. I'm at least getting him for the first 4 weeks as an RB1. Set my team up well. Might even trade him off if someone's really buying into him. But he's going as RB26 in consensus right now. So I'm getting, a lot of my 0 RB teams, a lot of the teams where I'm hammering those onesie positions at the beginning and I'm just not loving those middle round RBs. I've got a lot of Tony Pollard that have ended up stacking up on my teams. So big fan of Tony Pollard, really like what he has to offer. Jaylen Warren, going at consensus RB29 in drafts. I get that Caleb Johnson is a rookie. I get that he is a very large human. But I just don't see how the Steelers letting Najee Harris walk before he blew his eyesight out doesn't tell you how much the Steelers believed in Jaylen Warren. I don't think he's going to be the lone back at all. They wouldn't have gone out and spent the draft capital they did in a loaded RB class to go get Caleb Johnson if he was going to be the lone guy. But at the same time, someone who understands the system, an Arthur Smith system that loves to run the ball, is going at RB29. And there's a good chance that he is the leader in touches for this running back room very easily this year. So you've got Tony Pollard, you've got Jaylen Warren. And one guy, I'm not necessarily going to say he's a value, but the fact that people have still let Travion Henderson stay as low as he is, I'm seeing consensus RB19 right now. If you watched any college football last year, you know what this guy can do. You finally got to see him healthy. You got to see him in the timeshare that he needed to be in to produce. And dude freaking produced. And if that wasn't good enough, he goes into his first preseason game, his first touch of a football in an NFL game. He returns a 100-yard kickoff for a touchdown. And if that's not good enough, anytime he touched the ball in the preseason, everyone was losing their mind. Now, obviously, he's not going against the best and brightest of what every team has to offer throughout that. But the Patriots are even surprised by what they have gotten in Travion Henderson. And that's saying something from someone who spent the draft capital to go get him. if we're hyping up Amarian Hampton, if we think that he is going to be this, great godsend of a rookie running back, why are we not doing the same for Trevion Henderson? Because the Chargers haven't committed to being a single, solo backfield, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be all Amarian Hampton. So when I look at Trevion Henderson is in a situation where he has a fairly decent offensive line. He's going to have a timeshare with Ramondre Stevenson, which usually scares us off of players. But if you've watched any Trevion Henderson, you know that that's almost what he needs to be successful. And you know that this guy is a walking touchdown. Why is he still going as low as he is? So I'm going to call him a value because I think he can finish a lot higher than that, even as a rookie. But why is he still going that low?
Yeah, he's a borderline round 4, round 5 pick. I think that's what ADP says right now. While Hampton's like automatically a 3rd round pick. So I get that. On my side of things, I'm still pretty big on Chuba Hubbard. I'm not overly concerned with Rico. Again, if you look at what Rico has done in his career, very minimal up until last year. And even last year, it took him to see the ball almost 20 carries touches per game to actually produce solid fantasy numbers for the season. There, I don't remember seeing Rico being also worthy to be flexing in my flex spot most weeks. But it wasn't until near the end of the season where they just gave him the ball. And he produced with it absolutely. But the Panthers just gave Chuba Hubbard this past season a big contract. They're going to use this guy all which way. The offense is going to get better in Carolina here, and you're going to expect more opportunities for Chuba to be able to score this year. Again, if you are like me, sometimes I like to maybe skip out on running backs because I find value at other positions. If Chuba's my RB1 and I get him in round 4, round 5, I'm pretty happy because I think he can provide RB1's numbers, and then I can figure out the rest with backups and other tier 3, tier 4 players that can be RB2s for us in fantasy, who I'll talk about in a second. But Chuba's I think, still pretty good value overall. Another guy I really like still is Jordan Mason. And I've mentioned Jordan Mason multiple times on this podcast here. Vikings went out and traded for this guy this offseason here to get him on the team here. You saw last year that Aaron Jones had his career season with basically no one else in that backfield. He's 30 years old. He's been a guy who's dealt with some soft injuries at times in his career. And Jordan Mason, hold on. Jamie said, wouldn't Rico get the passing down catches? Maybe. He'll get some, I think, but I still think Chuba's going to have opportunities on his end to get touches, especially in the passing game. I think Rico will get some. I think they're split, but I don't think it's enough where I'm not drafting Chuba into that round 4 range there. But back to Jordan Mason is that, they're going to split this backfield. They've mentioned it multiple times throughout the offseason with the coaching staff that they want to have a more balanced approach in their backfield there. And I think Jordan Mason's going to be a guy that sees a lot of the early downs and goal line work in that offense, while I think you look at more of Aaron Jones as a change of pace kind of running back there, and you have Jordan Mason be that hard-nosed in the tackles kind of guy who can do that kind of stuff a little bit more. And I think before the season's over, you're going to get weeks with Jordan Mason as the RB1 for this team here and have really strong weeks for you. You're getting him. He's like the 36th running back off the board currently right now. No, not 36. I'm sorry. That's a lie. He's the 31st running back off the board. He's going in that round 7 to 8 range there. And again, I like the upside that he does offer a lot of people in fantasy. Another guy I do really like is Ollie Gordon. And again, not being a Dolphins fan on this one, but Ollie Gordon, in a general sense, I was able to watch a lot of games. Obviously, the Dolphins fan, but doing it as more of an analysis approach with a website that I do write for. But being able to watch Ollie Gordon show off what Miami has been missing in their offense for the last few seasons was a hard-nosed running back who can take a pounding and run over a defender. They haven't had that the last few years. Devon Achane is a speedy guy. Raheem Mostert, he tries, but he was older, and he's more of a fast guy anyway. And they had Jalen Wright, who, again, kind of more of a similar. I don't really see him in that similar set of skills. And now he's hurt, and he's likely going to miss the first few weeks of the season here. Devon Achane is still dealing with his own injury where, things may get worse as the season goes on. And I think there could be a really good chance that Ollie Gordon, if you get him in that round 10, 11 range, that he could be starting for you by mid-season. because Miami is down on running backs, and Ollie Gordon is just going to see the ball as much as possible. And I think in general sense, you're going to get a guy who, at times in the game, Miami's going to use him and have them kind of wear down defenders, and then open up the passing game that way. Where I think Ollie Gordon is a guy that you want to go get in those later rounds, and I think there's a good value for who could provide you RB2 numbers in fantasy. All right, over to some wide receiver values now. Coach Tyler, give me a couple real quick.
First one, literally talked about it 10 minutes ago. Tedero McMillan. I don't have anything else to say. Go listen to previous episodes if you want to hear about that. Or go listen to the beginning of this episode because you heard it. But another one, honestly, I'm looking at DK Metcalf. I see a empty wide receiver room. I see a somewhat alive tight end room, and I see Jaylen Warren as like the predominant pass catcher out of the backfield. DK Metcalf might have the most open opportunity to targets that he's had in his career. And I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is anything outstanding at his, old age. But if I remember correct, in at least PPR scoring, both of his wide receivers last year in Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams were both top 15 options. If I remember that right. I could be wrong on that.
What was that? I'm sorry.
Devontae and Garrett Wilson were both top 15 last year.
I will look while you keep talking.
Okay. I know they were both over 1,000 yards, and they both had a very equivalent number of targets. But the Steelers don't go out and get a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers if they just want him to hand the ball off 500 times a season. If they do, I know he's old. I know he's on all kinds of drugs. It's a waste.
They were top 15.
Exactly. So 2 top 15. Devontae Adams, he's still good. He's not the young Devontae Adams that we remember in Green Bay. But 2 top 15 receivers, and he had Breece Hall. He had a good running back. They had a not overly efficient running game, which is 1,000% what the Steelers could have this year. DK Metcalf is in line for a ton of targets, and I feel like people see him going to Pittsburgh and have just kind of cast him to the island of misfit toys. But I really like DK and the opportunity that he has as the alpha that he is. And then my last one, it's got to be Rome Odunze. Everyone's looking for DJ Moore to be the next Amon-Ra St. Brown, looking to be that guy in the Ben Johnson offense. And if you've paid any attention to the Bears camp, I'm sure they would be okay if DJ Moore was just traded for a sack of peanuts at the end of this day. They're ready for that guy to be gone. And they've spoken so highly about Odunze and the steps that he's taken and how much he commits to the craft and this and that and all the coach speak that you could have. But Rome Odunze, who, if you remember in college football a couple years ago, was outstanding. If you remember going into the draft, not this year but the past year, he was a very highly touted wide receiver prospect. And yet he's still going at wide receiver 34 when he has a chance to be the leading receiver very easily for a Ben Johnson offense. Any hope for Roman Wilson? Yes. I would have hope for Roman Wilson in a best ball league. I don't know about in just a regular redraft league.
Yeah, I don't know if there's consistency for Roman Wilson. To me, I feel like, especially with, again, Bob Woods was nothing crazy, but with them getting rid of Bob Woods when they still desperately need wide receiver, just veteran wide receiver help on that team, I think this is going to be a real tight end heavy game where there's going to be multiple triple tight ends on the field at times with DK Metcalf on the outside, and they're going to use those tight ends as crosses over the middle and short areas. That's my concern with Romo Wilson. I want to believe in the talent, but I also believe that this team is going to go tight end heavy, three tight end sets way too often this season.
When you get the extra linemen out there with Washington, it's going to be insane. That's the only hope for the run game is to get him out there playing left tackle.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, no, you gave some really good wide receiver values. I liked a lot of those right now. For me, Emeka Ibuka is someone I'm still really high in wanting to draft, especially with the more recent news with Chris Godwin. He avoided the pump, but apparently still it's going to be, it looks like a lot of people saying that he's still not going to play possibly up to 5, possibly up to 6 weeks into the season, which can be concerning, obviously. But I don't know why they didn't throw him on the pump. I'm really concerned by that, especially with the more recent news I just saw that he may not even play until after week 5, which why just not throw him on the pump anyway? So it's very confusing on what that situation is. But I think Ibuka is going to see a lot of targets in this offense because he's a younger wide receiver. He's going to have hopefully early on success in the slot at times. And again, for me, talent wins out sometimes. And Ibuka has a tremendous amount of talent where he was really highly regarded prior to his final year at college. And he kind of, took a little bit of a dip, but still, he is a very good wide receiver in this Bucks offense that's still very pass heavy at times. And we've seen it, especially week 1. I could see Ibuka having 100 yards and a touchdown in week 1 against that Falcons defense there. That team love to go back and forth on offenses. But he comes up with a really good value for me. Christian Kirk is another guy out of Houston I like in that round 12 to 14 range, where I think early on success in the slot. I've mentioned this multiple times where you saw Houston last year with Stephon Diggs in the slot. He was seen averaging 6 targets per game, and he had 4 top 15 finishes. I know Jaden Higgins is there. A lot of people like Jaden Higgins. I like Jaden Higgins. Jalen Noel is also there, but Christian Kirk was traded over there. When healthy, Christian Kirk's a really good wide receiver. And if he can be healthy for this season, and a team that probably is going to need to throw the ball a little bit more, he should see a good amount of targets and be very productive that you're going to be able to get later in drafts. And I think there's a really good value on that sense. And then another guy that I also really like still, where is he? Oh man, I can't even find him here. Oh, Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley in that round 7 range. I love Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley has top 15 upside this season with Cam Ward this year. You look at a guy like Calvin Ridley, who's the downfield threat. Yes, granted, he's a little bit older, but he still has that speed in his game there. For being an older wide receiver, he doesn't have a ton of years in the league, and he also missed a year in the league. So he doesn't have as much wear and tear on him in the last 4 years than you would expect many 30-year-old wide receivers would have at this point here. But Cam Ward has that deep ball threat. That's something that Will Levis just could not find a way to connect downfield. Cam Ward, I think, is going to be the real deal in this Titans offense. And again, outside of Calvin Ridley, who do you have? Tyler Lockett, you have Van Jefferson, you have a bunch of rookies, which is great, who I like. But Calvin Ridley is going to see a ton of targets in this offense. And again, he is another guy, again, if you wait on wide receiver, if you want him as your wide receiver too, the value is good for them there. So, all right, over to tight ends. Give me a quick tight end real quick before we go to fades.
I feel like I got to go Colson Loveland. I know I ride the rookie train a lot, but I feel like Colson Loveland's my guy in terms of the sleeper, or not the sleeper. That's stupid. He's not a sleeper to anyone. To value. But, he's going his consensus tight end 12. His highest ADP is on sleeper is tight end 11. So you're getting a back end of the tight end 1 range tight end who just went top 10 in a coach's first draft, who loves tight ends, who can scheme up a lot for a tight end to get open, and who, if we're being honest, is one of the more prototypical tight ends as we know them now. He's a big receiver. He's not a tight end. He's not going to go out there and block for you. No one cares about that. He's going to go out there and be all 6'5" or whatever, 6'6" he is, and go be an outstanding receiver for you. But you're getting to play him at your tight end spot.
That's true.
I think he's going to get paired up in 2 tight end sets with Kmet. But I think that they spent the capital and they planted that flag immediately after Ben Johnson's hire. And that sends enough of a message to me of, hey, even if it's, a Kyle Pitts situation where he has a great rookie year and then the rest of the years are kind of waiting on him to do it again, I don't care because this is his rookie year. After this year, we'll figure out if that's the case or not. But
That's true.
if he goes out and has a Kyle Pitts rookie year and then the rest of his career looks like Kyle Pitts, whoop-de-doo. This is his rookie year. So if he does that, I'm perfectly satisfied and happy with what I'm getting at tight end 12.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple tight ends I do like. I do like if you don't take one of the top guys early. I like Kelsey, but if not, I do like waiting, going Tyler Warren. I think he's going to see a lot of underneath routes with that Colts offense there, especially with Daniel Jones at quarterback now. Brenton Strange really late if you just want to block on the tight end position. I think Brenton Strange has a really good chance to give you borderline tight end one numbers, and you're getting him basically with your last pick in most drafts. So there's another guy in terms of values at tight ends I really do like. So quarterback fade. Anyone that you're really not touching at quarterback in the top, the top 10 guys at their value.
Really, I guess Kyler Murray is the one that sticks out to me. He's what he is. He's a guy that I've watched since high school. I saw him playing at D. Allen High School in Texas. I've seen him play all the way up. And at this point, I'm just waiting for him to do something with his career. And I don't see the Chargers offense looks the exact same to me. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not super tuned in to the offensive line. But skill position wise, their offense looks the exact same to me. And so I just see Kyler Murray kind of having a repeat year. I see him being really drafted at his ceiling at quarterback 9. And so if there's one that I'm, not going to take that chance on that I might shy away from, it would be him.
That's fair. Jamie had a question in the chat. Brenton Strange or Hunter Henry? For me, it's Brenton Strange, for sure. For me, quarterback-wise I'm someone I'm not really overly trying to target and redraft this year is still Justin Herbert. It's pretty clear that Justin Herbert, I think there's still a chance for his career to bounce back where he's a top-tier quarterback in fantasy. I just don't think it's right now what's going on with this offense here. Obviously, the Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, they want to run the ball a ton, and they don't want to be a overly heavy volume passing offense. And again, people are probably taking Herbert in their 12th, 11th round and say, "Oh, I got a quarterback 1." It's hard to trust a guy who hasn't more than 25 passing touchdowns in any of the last 3 seasons. And yes, granted he's getting more and more weapons, which that is more of a plus side for Dynasty, but for redraft this year still, I'm not overly wanting to touch it. I'll let someone else take that, and I'll wait to see him kind of be there for fantasy. So he's a guy I'm kind of fading on at quarterback this year. Running backs, any running backs in the top, top 20?
None that overly push me out of the way.
Maybe not avoiding, but I'm not going to take him in round 1 or something like that.
Oh, not taking in round 1. I feel like it's got to be Genty. I'm very okay taking him round 2, so it's not like I'm ready for him to be gone. But I just look at the Raiders' offense, and I love Genty. I have Genty in a lot of places. I made a lot of dynasty trades to get Genty. But in terms of his rookie season, I'm not the highest on trusting that offense. But he can prove me wrong. And if he does, I'll have some very happy dynasty teams with some money rolling in. But fair. Genty in the first, I feel like banking my best pick on a rookie going into a terrible offense, it scares me off of making that pick. Second round, though, I'm all in on Genty.
That's fair. Couple of guys real quick. Devon A-Chain in that early round 2 range. I'm not really overly trying to take him now. The calf injury scares me, honestly. If he's a late round 2 pick, I'm okay. But early round 2 coming around back after taking somebody high with round 1, I don't want to take that chance on a guy like Devon A-Chain. Breece Hall's going at the end of round 3. I'm not excited about that. I'd rather wait. If I see him there and I need running back, I'd rather wait a round or 2 and then go for the Henderson or Chuba at that point. Hall's just another guy I'm fading as well. So Wide receivers. Anyone you're fading there in the top, 30 or so.
Top 30. I really think T. Higgins is being taken a little too high. I obviously get, Bengals offense is going to have to be what it was last year for them to be any kind of competitive. I get their defense is terrible. I get he's the number 2, and it's really kind of him and Chase playing the game. But I just feel like taking him in the wide receiver 1 range when there's other, actual wide receiver 1s around him kind of scares me off. Not taking him that early. Another quick guy, y'all know how I feel about Terry McLaurin. Obviously, with all the offseason stuff, it's very rare that we see someone hold out or hold in or hold whatever. They can hold D's. But whenever they hold out, hold in, and then wait until right before the season starts to get back with the team and get going and do all the stuff, it very rarely leads to a consistent start. It's usually a slow start, and then you're not happy with this player. And so I feel like Terry McLaurin is very much at risk of being that guy that you come out of the draft thinking you're getting last year Terry McLaurin, who we've talked about, that was his absolute ceiling in at least my eyes. And then you get kind of crappy Terry McLaurin for a few of those first 4 or 5 weeks.
That's fair. I respect that. A couple guys real quick. Puka Nacua is someone I don't really want to take in round 1 right now. Just dealing with everything with Matthew Stafford and his injury, whether or not they're downplaying or not downplaying it whatsoever. He's always been a low touchdown guy. He's dealt with a couple of injuries in his career. And again, now Devontae Adams there, who's a big touchdown guy. I think I'd rather take him in round 2. He's a better, safer pick in round 2 than take him in round 1. Ladd McConkey early round 3 is another guy that I'm not trying to draft him early round 3. I mean, he had 112 targets last year. He doesn't seem to be a guy that's going to see that 130, 140 range where those guys below him, like I think guys like Tyreek Hill, Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think Mike Evans could still, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, like some of those guys can still hit 130, 140 targets. I don't think Ladd is going to do that with the return of Keenan Allen. You have Trey Harris now. You have Taylor Conklin, a better catching tight end. You have some good running backs now. I think Ladd's going a little early for my books overall. So he's another guy I'm fading early round 3. I don't hate him, but I mean, I don't want to take him that early. And then tight ends real quick. Give me a tight end. It's tough with tight ends. I get it.
Yeah, it was tough to find my value. Really, I kind of just want to stay away from David Njoku.
That's fair.
I see the Browns. I see kind of just what they are, and it's terrible. I get Joe Flacco is there, and a couple years ago he was with the Browns and blew the world up. He's now 2-3 years older than that, and that means that he is over the 40 age cliff. We talk about the age cliff for running backs being at age 26. Joe Flacco is at the age 40 age cliff. So I don't think that offense is going to do a whole bunch of anything. I think it's going to be vintage Cleveland Browns, what we know it to be. It's going to be a carousel of quarterbacks because Flacco's not going to do good for the first few weeks, and then obviously the media is going to push Shador, and Shador's going to do terrible, and then they're going to get Dylan Gabriel in there, and then Watson's going to get healthy, and he'll get a couple games, and it's like terrible. So Njoku's just someone I want to stay away from. Obviously, I know there's a bunch of volume that can come to him. God, you're telling me, Jamie, the fact that a Browns player is going this high and his name is not Nick Chubb is insane to me.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm fading taking guys like a Jake Ferguson, a Dalton Kincaid, Kyle Pitts, Jonas Smith, and that you're like, oh, around 11, 12 range. I'm gonna take my tight end now. I'd rather fade on that, and take a guy like Brenton Strange later, take a Zach Ertz later, take a Mason Taylor later, then go for that 11, 12 range where you could get a more quality backup running back if you need to. So that's kind of where I'm at with the running backs. But yeah, I mean running backs, the tight end. So. But yeah, that's gonna wrap us up today. That's our draft prep show, guys. Last chance to get all the information out to you. So, Coach Tyler, is there anything you want to say before we get going?
Yeah, guys, go check out Dynasty Nerds. Use code Coach when you get over there. Lots of good stuff prepping you for the season as you're getting ready, as you're going into your drafts. But yeah, go check out dynastynerds.com. Use code Coach when you get over there. Let them know that we sent you, and thank you all so much for listening.
Absolutely, guys, and we appreciate you all for tuning in as always. We're going to be starting back up, I think Thursdays. We'll talk about it. I think it's Thursdays. Has in for the season here. We might also do a Monday show here and there when we can, but we're going to give you guys as much start and sit advice, waiver wire advice as we can for you this coming season here. And help you guys now that you guys. Oh, Juan, you have a question? Hurry up, buddy. Go for it. I'll finish up my talk real quick, but ask your question. Go for it. But yeah, so as always, please go check out our YouTube channel. Oh, here we go. Who should I take? Who should I pick up as the RB1 for my draft, which is in 30 minutes? Well, it depends on what your draft spot is.
Yeah, we need draft spot. We need PPR, half PPR.
Bijan, Gibbs, Barkley. Who's your RB4?
Bijan, Gibbs, Barkley.
Derrick Henry.
Derrick Henry, yeah. CMC.
Yeah. I mean, depends on what pick you got overall. Early pick, some of the guys we named. Late round pick, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor. Those are good late round picks. Genty, if he falls to the later rounds. Those are some really good picks as well. Wanted to go in that later round, depending on when your draft pick is and whatnot. But you have kind of both on both sides there. All right. Well, again, we all appreciate y'all for tuning in as always, guys. It's live on our YouTube channel at the Fantasy Coaches. He's got the 9th pick there. So 9th pick, you're looking at Genty. You're looking at taking Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor in that range there. Yeah, like Jamie just said here, go Lamb and then or a wide receiver and then take Josh Jacobs in round 2. That is actually a perfect way to go about the 9th pick there. 10-man league. That's actually a really good 10-man league. I like Drake London in the round 1. That's how I like him that much. But go wide receiver round 1 and then take a guy like Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Taylor in round 2. Henry could be there too. Absolutely could be. But yeah, so hopefully that's kind of helpful for you. I'm in the middle of a draft now, so I'm sorry if I'm kind of right here at the end of the show, guys. And they're going so quickly on me. I'm in round 2 already. I got Gibbs at the 4th pick, though, so I was pretty happy about that.
Good. We love that.
Yeah, we do love that. So we thank you all for tuning and listening. We'll be back next week, guys, giving you guys more start and sit advice and all that fun stuff there. So until then, guys, thank you all for tuning in. Tune in until next time, everyone. And you all have a great